Ukrainian aerial reconnaissance aircraft targeted and destroyed the armored combat vehicles of the occupying Russian army in various directions of the front. In addition to tanks, armored personnel carriers, and infantry fighting vehicles, Grad rocket launchers, mine-laying engineering vehicles, military trucks carrying manpower and ammunition, and pickup trucks with machine guns mounted on them were blown up and destroyed by drones and kamikaze drone strikes. The servicemen in the vehicles were also killed as a result of the strikes.
The liberation of settlements in the Pokrovsk direction in Donetsk Oblast by the defense forces indicates that the Russians' summer offensive has already failed, but that escalations at the front are still to be expected. This was stated by the head of the Ukrainian Center for Security and Cooperation, Sergei Kuzan, on air at Radio NV. We should not overestimate the liberation or capture of several settlements by the enemy. Of course, if these are not such large cities as Pokrovsk or Kramatorsk, the capture of such cities changes the situation itself, the situation in the forces at the operational level, he said. According to him, it is worth considering the dynamics demonstrated by the Ukrainian defense forces. At the same time, he added, this is happening in August, when the peak of the summer offensive, which the Russians were counting on, should have continued. As Kuzan explained, it was now that the Russians should have achieved their greatest successes, and they really planned to break through in the Pokrovsk direction and in the direction of Dobropolye. To break through, to get to our rear, and to create an encirclement for the main urban agglomeration, starting from Kramatorsk and further to Druzhkovka, Konstantinovka. That is, the main cities that form our main fortified lines. But they did not succeed. In fact, a large offensive campaign of the Russians was disrupted. But in addition, we have already moved on to counter-offensive actions. For example, in the Sumy, Limansky, and, as we can already see, in the Pokrovsky direction, the expert said. According to him, this means that the Russians' summer offensive operation has already failed. The enemy will not let go. We are still waiting for escalations at the front. We understand that there will be escalations both in the Pokrovsk direction and in the Kupiansk area. The enemy plans to create additional difficulties for us to conduct several offensive campaigns somewhere, possibly in Zaporozhye, and we see the enemy's tactics, which consist of searching for weak spots, Kuzan noted. As reported, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Oleksandr Syrsky, stated yesterday that the Ukrainian Defense Forces successfully counter-attacked and cleared 3 settlements in Donetsk Oblast of Russian occupiers, Mikhailivka, Zelenski, and Volodymyrivka. He noted that the Pokrovsk direction remains the most difficult on the front. The Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine shared that the Ukrainian military continues to hold the defense of Pokrovsk, despite the superior forces of the enemy. In the Lyman direction, Russians press forward and are rapidly burning through their forces, attacking Ukrainians from all sides. Holding an active defense, the Ukrainian 3rd Army Corps is hitting back hard, denying the Russians new territory and taking advantage of their most exposed positions to make new significant territorial gains of their own, according to Euromaidan Press media outlet. It is noted that Russian forces continue to push towards Torsk from all sides, but Ukrainian defenders from the 63rd and 60th Mechanized Brigades are defending proactively. They are preventing the enemy from consolidating or entrenching inside the settlement by targeting Russians during their deployment to the front line. In the nearby Serebryansky forest, Russian troops have pushed deeper through its natural cover to move into Torsk by maintaining as small a profile as possible and crawling past Ukrainian positions at night. However, the Russians failed to stay undetected throughout the day. The infiltrators tried to seek cover in the trees but were followed by the armored vehicle and eliminated with another series of devastating shots. Euromaidan Press says, in another engagement involving rarely seen armored vehicles, Ukrainian FPV drone operators destroyed 2 Russian BMP-2 infantry fighting vehicles near Terny, trying to deploy assault groups to attack Torsk from the north. Both vehicles became immobilized after hitting mines, and their surviving crew members and dismounted infantry were subsequently eliminated. The loss of both BMPs and their crews halted any momentum the Russians hoped to build in that direction. It underscores the effectiveness of Ukrainian drone warfare in neutralizing even heavily armored targets before they can influence the battle. While Torsk holds some tactical value, the Ukrainian command has made it clear they will not sacrifice their men to defend it at all costs. A mobile and active defense posture is essential, prioritizing the lives of soldiers and maintaining the combat capabilities of brigades over clinging to a single defense line. Along the Russian bridgehead across the Zerabets River, the situation is very different. The Russians are overextended, and their most vulnerable positions are constantly under heavy Ukrainian fire without Russian artillery being able to respond without exposing itself on the bank. Euromaidan Press reports Russian soldiers have to move 15 kilometers on foot at a crawling pace to avoid immediate detection by Ukrainian drones, making any reinforcement attempts costly, slow, and any rapid response impossible. Due to this, Ukrainians were able to conduct a counter-attack and exploit the enemy's weaknesses. Fighters from various brigades within the 3rd Army Corps recently recaptured Rydkhodub, striking precisely where Russian forces were most exposed. Rydkhodub is now fully cleared of Russian presence, given the logistical difficulties for Russian forces needing to move artillery, drones, and infantry across the river while avoiding constant Ukrainian surveillance. The enemy advance here has to start from scratch. Ukrainian forces in the Lyman sector are solving their issues by not only conducting active defense and efficiently absorbing Russian attacks, but also reclaiming ground whenever opportunities are created.